Hello world, welcome to the 184th climate change emergency protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is June 17th, 2022. Next week will be the 185th. That'll be on June 23rd, 2022, emergency climate change protest. I do these broadcasts now on the battlefield and around Gettysburg and elsewhere because it's no longer safe to do a broadcast on the street of the town or anywhere else, basically, because you will be physically well, not physically, mentally abused. People just yell stuff at you, and it can result in physical altercations, which Tiny and I had a pretty close one with someone a year or two ago. So there's some real anger out there, and it's misdirected anger rather than directing it at other people. The problem is that we're being led down a path of utter destruction, and people don't even know it. I'm going to show you a chart that I came up with. And many of you might laugh at it or whatever, but, and I have it posted online on my Facebook page. It deals with the temperature from 1750 to now, and the United Nations, and I'll explain later, used the 1880 baseline, but 1750 was the start of the Industrial Revolution. And this is what it looks like. You probably can't see it because it's too light out. So if you go to my webpage, it'll show you the numbers and everything as to what happened. And what the numbers mean and whatnot. I'll try to explain it, and it's kind of difficult for the average person maybe to understand. But let me talk about this railroad cut. This was here during the Civil War, and a group of Confederates tried to sneak down this railroad cut to get behind Union lines in a fatal attempt, misguided attempt to get behind Union lines and do some destructive damage. But the Union saw through it. I mean, the bank is like right on the edge, and this was a fortified area for the Union. Even though on the first day, though, the Union got pushed back big time, way back about a mile and a half further east here to Cemetery Ridge. But this is an example of when you have leaders in charge that don't understand the topography or what's going on in the situation, that they lead the misguided, unfortunate boobs like us down a road, and it can kill you. It can be fatal. And this railroad symbolizes, are we going ahead with our lives, or is this a track that's leading right off a cliff? And right now with climate change, I know you've heard it before, but we're going straight off a cliff if we haven't already. And this might kind of inform you where we are right now. So carbon dioxide right now is in the atmosphere is 420 to 421 parts per million. 280 parts per million is the safe zone, not 350 as 350.org always says. 280 is where humans have existed, 300 basically down to 200 parts per million. It varied in between there. But now it's at 420 to 421 parts per million. Why is this important? Because carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, meaning the sunlight comes in and then the heat that hits the ground and all can't go back out to the atmosphere. So you're having a situation where it's not even. So you don't have the heat going out, same amount of heat going out as the same amount of heat coming in. So it's imbalanced is what I was trying to say. So right now the IPCC, the United Nations, determined that 1.5 degrees Celsius above the 1880 baseline, which I will talk about in a second, is 1.5 degrees above the 1880 baseline. Bad things will happen. Well, right now we're seeing around the world drought, fires, floods, heat, hurricanes, people dying, typhoons. And why? Well, because we already passed the 1.5 barrier. And here's how I determined that. In 1750, that was the actual start of the Industrial Revolution, not 1880. Temperatures have increased in 1780, have increased 1.74 degrees Celsius since then, not 1.5, 1.74 degrees Celsius. The original date of 1750 was agreed to briefly by the attendees of the Paris Agreement back in 2015, which got front page news. But 1750 was soon kiboshed because the island nation said that 2 degrees Celsius was too high, and we want a 1.5 degree barrier. And the UNIPC said, how can we fudge these numbers? So they came up with 1880 as the start of the Industrial Revolution. Totally made up, not true, totally false about everything. You had actually here, for example, the Civil War going on in 1863. Well, to get there, you had to mechanize everything and industrialize everything. Cannons, arms, railroad, you name it, everything had to be industrialized. So 1750 is the real start of the Industrial Revolution. But to stay under 1.5 degrees Celsius, they fabricated 1880 as the start of the baseline. Because why? The temperatures were 0.58 degrees lower or higher in 1880 than they were in 1750. So they built in a cushion of 0.58 degrees into their 1.5. So now there's a 50% chance of passing 1.5 degrees just using their 1880 baseline by 2026. Do you understand that? We will go past the 1.5 guide rail anyway by 2026. That's only 3.5 years from now. But if you're using the 1750 temperature as the baseline, plus the 1.5 degrees barrier that they're talking about by 2026, we will have gone to 2.08 degrees Celsius by then, by 2026. The United Nations, Antonio Guterres said 2.0 degrees Celsius increase is catastrophic. It's cataclysmic, and it's a potential life-ending experience. So we're splitting hairs here whether we're going to go over 2 degrees Celsius, 2.1, or 1.9. Right now, at over 1.5, or as the United Nations has said, we've only gone to 1.16, which is a lie. But even at 1.16, we're seeing all these effects. At 1.5 degrees Celsius, using their 1880 baseline, or using the baseline that I'm saying is 1750, we've already gone over 1.5. So we have passed the 1.5 degree barrier. We're seeing this devastation. So if you watch the news by the major news organizations, the big four, such as NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox, you're seeing utter devastation on TV. They're weather events, and what they are is climate change events. You saw Yellowstone happening. You're seeing drought out west. You're seeing all sorts of things going on. And you, as a public, are being played. They're counting on you being dumb, and it's working so far, but now I'm trying to wake you up. You're counting on you being dumb by not mentioning the word climate change. They're just reporting events, or they separate events. They'll separate the Yellowstone event from wildfires, and have a couple articles in between to make you think they're unrelated, and they are not. So elections have to be based on climate change policy, and there's not one politician in the United States right now that is strictly adhering to climate change policy. They don't have any plan. They don't know what they're doing, and this is both parties, including all parties. There's no one willing to stop everything. They're too scared to take action. They're too scared to put their career on the line and realize that they should be a one-term politician and do the right thing and take the risk as it is. At the end, they will have done the right thing. They're unwilling to make the case about climate change. No one even talks about it now. You got these so-called liberals in the Congress, and they don't mention it. You got the hard right wing, whose places like Texas are being absolutely decimated by climate change. No mention of it. There are no policies involved, let alone even talking about it. So my contention is the voting for lesser two evils. When people get in a voting booth, I don't know. I've heard this for the last 8 years. I'm going to vote for lesser two evils. Well, for Pennsylvania, for example, we're the second largest fracking state in the country, meaning fracking gas and a little bit of oil comes with that. But any fracking can happen out west as well, and that's largely oil as well as gas. So our politicians here in Pennsylvania running for governor and senator, both parties believe in fracking. They say we can't lose jobs. Well, you know what? 2026 is going to come, and there won't be any jobs because we're going to have trouble surviving as a planet. Now, I could be off a couple years, but essentially it's the same idea. Whether it's 2030 or 2024, it doesn't matter. We're coming to the end, and we're seeing all this devastation right now. And supposedly it's only a 1.16 degree increase, and we've obviously passed into an era that things are changing so fast we can't keep up with it, and there are too many news articles. If you go on YouTube, you can see, type in climate change 2020, and you can see 2022, sorry. You can see all sorts of articles around the world as to what's happening around the world. You're being fooled right now and played, and when you know more about Johnny Depp and his love interest and his trial going on than you do about climate change, you're sorely misguided and sorely misguided. You got to keep up with things and be willing to explore YouTube and other news organizations that are actually filming things that is happening. So with these politicians, there's not one politician that has a fracking policy, drilling policy, other than to keep drilling, drill baby drill, including our president of the United States. And they try to blame Trump for everything, but here we are. Biden has issued 3,500 drilling permits in his first year in office, which was more than Trump. Both are evil, doesn't matter. All parties are evil right now. They're participating and subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. So this is a murderous path we're taking, that we've been put on, and the politicians are engaged in utter murder, and it's hard to say that, but the policies are a murderous policy. No matter how nice they might seem, they'll come up to you, slap you on the back, and go, "Hey, how you doing?" Best friends. While they're engaging in policies, they're not only going to kill you, but also your kids and every piece of life on Earth. That's the extent we're going into right now. So the impact with all these politicians is a deafening and definite murderous path. You can't stay on this. The price you pay, as I said, is going to be with your kid's life, your life, and all life on Earth. So go on my page and check out the numbers I have posted. There's a card that I wrote, is a 2 3x5 cards, and I put down the numbers, and you can argue about them, but the numbers stand up, and we're quickly approaching over 2 degrees Celsius. We've already blown past the 1.5 degrees Celsius barrier, and that's why you're seeing this devastation around the whole world. And please wake up. Don't just listen to your 4 news programs or 2 news programs or 1 news program and turn off the television, or things are too hard. Grow up. We're in the middle of a struggle for our very lives and your kids' lives and all life on Earth. You got to grow up and quit being childish and saying, it's too scary. Of course it's scary, but this is the price we pay for all of our years of just going and going along and acting like nothing's changing. So please get online and check out YouTube, and check out my numbers, and please wake up. And when you go to vote, you're better off not voting for anybody if you're going to vote for the choice between a fracker or a fracker. So catch you next week. That'll be June 23rd, 2022, and that was number 184 we just saw. See ya.